Picture this. You've been working out faithfully since, I don't know, say 1994.
Right.
You swim a few times a week. You do yoga on the weekends. You hit the gym. And you religiously get your 10,000 steps in every single day.
Sounds like a pretty solid routine.
Right. But what if I told you that in all those 30 years of sweating and striving, you haven't actually turned on your body's full circulatory system a single time?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like a provocation or, maybe a gimmick, but it is actually just raw physiology.
Seriously.
Seriously. The reality is you aren't doing your exercises wrong, and the exercise itself isn't bad. The blind spot is simply that nobody ever sat you down and explained what your circulatory system actually is, or, well, what it fundamentally requires to function the way it evolved to.
Which is exactly our mission for you today in this deep dive. We've got a brilliant stack of sources for this one.
Oh, yeah, really incredible stuff.
We're looking at excerpts from the WAVE protocol and The Invisible Epidemic by Terence Hughes. And this is all backed up by some truly landmark, peer-reviewed science pulled from the Journal of Physiology and the Journal of Vascular Surgery.
Yeah, it's heavy-hitting research.
It really is. So basically, we are going to explore how your body evolved in and through rhythm for complex movement, because your physiology requires it.
Absolutely.
I mean, circulatory health requires it. How you utilize energy intake and assimilate nutrients requires it. How you coordinate in all directions requires it. And crucially, your heart needs it the most.
Yes, that's the core of it.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the heart itself. Because before we can understand this complex whole-body circulatory rhythm, we have to talk about a major mechanical limitation of the organ we all kind of assume is doing all the work.
What's fascinating here is that we are raised to completely revere the heart, and rightly so. I mean, it beats 100,000 times a day without you having to think about it. It is an incredible, tireless pressure pump that, pushes blood out into the arteries with tremendous force. But here's the critical limitation that almost never gets talked about. The heart cannot pull.
Wait, meaning it has no suction mechanism whatsoever?
None. Zero. It literally cannot pull blood back up from your toes and your fingers. It relies entirely on a whole body system, an augmented architecture basically, to handle what we call venous return.
The journey back.
Exactly, the journey back.
So I was reading through the sources, and the best way my brain could picture this was comparing the heart to a massively powerful delivery driver.
Okay, I like that.
Imagine this driver can forcefully throw packages out of a warehouse, launching them way down into the deepest, furthest parts of a neighborhood with pinpoint accuracy. But the delivery truck has absolutely no reverse gear. And there's no way for the driver to actually steer the truck back to the warehouse. They rely entirely on this, bucket brigade of locals to manually pass the empty truck all the way back up the road.
The delivery driver analogy works, but let's make it even more precarious to match the actual physiology.
Okay.
That truck doesn't just lack a reverse gear, it's driving down into a valley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that bucket brigade of locals has to pass the truck back up a steep, punishing hill, fighting gravity the entire way. So the return journey is a completely different, much harder mechanical process than the outbound journey.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Because walking is the classic, universally prescribed exercise for exactly this.
Yeah.
Right? And, I mean, the data in our sources actually makes walking sound like an absolute superhero for this return journey.
It does look impressive on paper.
Right. Just looking at the numbers here, every single step you take creates a pressure event in the bottom of your foot, the plantar venous plexus.
Mm-hmm.
Each weight-bearing pump moves 33 milliliters of blood up into the knee. The calf muscle generates up to 140 millimeters of mercury of pressure, which, by the way, is higher than most people's systolic blood pressure.
Yeah, it's a massive squeeze.
And plus, fast walking increases ankle inflow 15 times over what it is when you're just sleeping. So, if walking moves 90% of lower extremity blood and boosts lymph flow 15 times, why are people who walk 5 miles a day still getting cardiovascular disease?
Right.
Why do they still have fluid pooling around their ankles at the end of the day?
Because walking only activates one section of the orchestra.
Okay.
Yes, those numbers are entirely real. And look, walking is genuinely good for you. I'm not knocking walking, but it is habitual. It's brief in its mechanical action, and it completely misses the upper two-thirds of the body.
Right, the arms and chest.
Exactly. If you only walk, you are basically playing the same 3 notes on a piano over and over and, well, expecting a symphony. To understand what the system actually needs to thrive, we have to look closer at what walking is failing to do, even just in the legs themselves.
Yeah, I noticed that in the notes. Like, we need to move away from the assumption that the leg is just this simple up and down meat pump.
Absolutely.
The Journal of Vascular Surgery published a study in 2024 that honestly flipped how I view my own legs. Can you walk us through what they actually found?
Yeah, it's a study that really should prompt a rewrite of every physical therapy and exercise textbook out there.
Wow, really?
Yeah. For decades, we've thought of the calf pump as a simple squeeze and release mechanism. You step, it squeezes, blood goes up. But the 2024 research revealed it is much more intricate. It's actually a two-component mechanism.
Okay.
It requires the sequential, synergistic work of antagonist muscle groups.
Wait, meaning muscles that do opposite things. Right. Put that down for me.
So, imagine the lower leg. You have the posterior gastrocnemius. That's the bulky muscle on the back of your calf.
Right, the classic calf muscle.
Exactly. That muscle contracts when you bear weight, like when your foot strikes the ground. But that's only part one. Following sequentially, the anterior tibial muscle, which is the muscle on the front of your shin, has to contract during the swing phase of your stride.
Oh, interesting.
It is a highly specific front-to-back push and release sequence.
And the missing element in just regular walking, according to the sources, is time under tension.
Yeah.
Because when you walk, the vein in your leg is compressed and then immediately released. It's a split-second event. You step, and it's over.
Right, it's too fast.
But natural, complex movement requires a sustained phase.
Yeah.
You need the internal pressure of the muscle to actually hold the vein compressed, to really bear down on it, so it can force the blood centrally over a meaningful period of time.
Precisely. I mean, the blood gets a quick shove during a walk, but not a sustained, powerful drive upward. Without deliberate, sustained loading and complex weight transfer, the full pump cycle never actually completes its potential.
Wait, so think about the standard repetitive calf raise that I see in every single gym. People just standing on a step, bouncing up and down on their toes. Is that essentially incomplete?
Unfortunately, yes.
Wow.
A traditional calf raise is just isolated plantar flexion, basically just pointing your toes hard under a heavy load. It completely ignores the front of your shin, and it totally misses that sequential front-to-back dialogue the 2024 study highlighted.
So you're only getting half the benefit.
Barely even half. It captures only a fraction of the pump mechanism. The full two-component sequence with that sustained hold only happens by design in integrated complex movement.
Okay, so the calf pushes the fluid up out of the valley, and it needs sustained tension to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
But if the heart can't pull, I mean, it can't just sit in your thighs. Something has to act as the vacuum at the top of the hill.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the answer lies in a shocking 2005 discovery about breathing.
This is from a landmark study in the Journal of Physiology, and it completely changes how you think about your core.
Yeah.
They looked at the combined effects of breathing mechanics and calf muscle activation on venous return, observing it in real time. And what they found was that respiratory muscle pressure is the predominant factor modulating venous return.
Hold on, meaning your breath actually overrides your leg muscle.
It completely overrides them. Even when your calf is actively working, doing everything right, your breathing mechanics ultimately dictate the flow.
Wait, let me stop you because there's a statistic here that is just wild to me.
Oh, the retrograde flow.
Yeah. The study measured what happens when you inhale. When you take a deep diaphragmatic inhalation, when your belly expands, venous return from your legs is actually impeded. The study showed a net retrograde flow of 11%. You're saying taking a deep breath actually pushes blood backward into my legs.
Yes, for a moment.
That's crazy.
Because as the diaphragm pushes down, it increases pressure in the abdominal cavity, effectively putting a roadblock on the highway coming up from your legs. But, and this is key, during the expiration, the exhale, the magic happens.
Right.
There is a massive central draw, a huge upward pull.
Because the diaphragm is acting as a second heart.
Exactly. When you exhale, the diaphragm moves upward, thoracic pressure in your chest drops, and it creates a powerful sump effect. It vacuums the blood and lymphatic fluid up from the lower body, past the abdomen, and into the chest cavity.
So let's make this incredibly practical.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this right now and you are sitting at a desk with that classic hunched, shallow, compressed thoracic breathing, your second heart is essentially switched off.
Completely offline.
And even if you're at the gym moving heavy weights, if you don't coordinate your exhale with the heavy loading phase of your movement, your breath and your leg muscles are literally canceling each other out. You're pushing from the bottom while slamming the door shut at the top.
It's an incredible mechanical conflict that most of us are doing every single day.
Yeah.
You have these two powerful rhythms, right? The muscular pump and the respiratory pump. If they aren't synchronized, you are literally fighting your own physiology.
Okay, so the calf pushes the fluid, the diaphragm pulls it up into the chest, but it can't just hang out in your lungs.
Right, it needs an exit.
Where does it actually go? This shifts us from the core to the shoulders, and it exposes what the sources call the most consequential gap in conventional fitness.
To understand the exit door, we really have to talk about the lymphatic system. All the lymphatic fluid from your lower body, your abdomen, and the left side of your upper body, it all converges into this major vessel called the thoracic duct.
Okay?
And where does the thoracic duct finally empty into your bloodstream? The subclavian vein, right at your shoulder.
At the shoulder. I guarantee almost nobody walking around the gym knows this, and we're not just talking about water weight here.
Not at all.
We're talking about every single immune cell. And crucially, every single fat molecule absorbed from your gut. Like your body's entire nutrient assimilation process relies on this fluid clearing the thoracic duct at the shoulder level to get into the bloodstream to be used as energy.
Exactly right. Your ability to utilize the energy intake from your food and assimilate those nutrients requires the specific exit point to be open and actively pumping. And I'll ask you, what does normal walking do for your shoulders?
Absolutely nothing. Unless you're aggressively power walking through a mall in the 1990s, your arms are just hanging there by your sides like dead weight.
Right. The exit point of your entire lymphatic system is completely unaddressed by the most popular form of exercise on the planet. The upper venous and lymphatic return system is just sitting there waiting for mechanical stimulation that never arrives.
Which is where the WAVE protocol steps in. Terrence Hughes introduces something called arm letters to deliberately engage this upper architecture.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And it's not just random arm waving like you're at a concert. It's incredibly specific. Let's talk about the physical lever action here. Take the letter Y, where you reach your arms up and out bilaterally. Why does that matter?
So think of your collarbone like a physical clamp.
Okay.
When your arms are down by your sides, that clamp is closed tight over the subclavian vein. Reaching up and out physically lifts the collarbone, it opens the clamp, it widens the thoracic outlet, and actively decompresses the subclavian vein so the fluid can actually rush out and drain into the bloodstream.
Okay, that makes total sense. And then there's the letter Z. It's a diagonal sweep, one arm driving up and across, the other reaching down and back.
Yeah, that Z movement creates maximum rotational load through your thoracic spine.
Which does what exactly?
It mechanically engages the deep paraspinal muscles. Those are the thick cables of muscle running right alongside your spine, and the lymphatic vessels woven through them. That is deep territory that almost no conventional forward and back upper body exercise ever reaches.
Wow. And then the letter C, which is a unilateral reaching across the body. When you do it, you can feel it physically widening the intercostal spaces, like the gaps between your ribs, opening up the entire lateral wall of your chest.
Executing these complex cross-lateral movements isn't just about gaining flexibility or, looking graceful. It is the deliberate, mathematically necessary mechanical stimulation of the upper venous and lymphatic architecture.
Right.
Without it, you are literally leaving the exit door of your immune and nutrient delivery systems shut tight.
Okay, so we have the raw pieces on the board. We have the two-component calf pump in the legs with its time under tension. We have the diaphragm acting as a second heart to pull the fluid up on the exhale.
Yeah.
And we have the complex arm sweeps to unclamp the exit door at the shoulders.
Exactly, the whole pathway.
But how do we synchronize all of this? This brings us to the core thesis of these sources. Our physiology fundamentally requires rhythm for complex movement.
Yes. Your circulatory system is inherently phasic. Everything has a rhythm. The heartbeat, the breath, the muscular contraction. When these rhythms align in your body, the whole system actually resonates.
Resonates like music.
Exactly like music. The WAVE protocol trains the body using different time signatures to force this resonance.
So 44 time, a standard, regular 1, 2, 3, 4 pulse. I get that. That's walking. It's baseline. Our bodies adapt to it almost immediately. You put on a podcast, you zone out, you just go.
Right. Very predictable.
Then the protocol introduces 34 time, like a waltz. The accent falls differently, which shifts your breathing pattern and changes the loading sequence on your legs. The one that really blew my mind reading this was 54 time.
54 time is where the magic truly happens. It is an asymmetrical, uneven rhythm. Structurally, it's 5 beats to a measure.
Which means your body cannot settle into an automatic habit. Think about your standard morning jog. You zone out, your brain goes on autopilot. In 54 time, your brain isn't allowed to do that.
No, it can't.
You can't zone out.
Yeah.
Your nervous system has to stay constantly engaged to find the pattern.
And let's connect that back to the muscles. Because your brain is constantly trying to stabilize and predict this uneven rhythm, it produces a continuous low-level muscular activation.
Like it's holding on.
Yes, it's like a dancer trying to gracefully catch their balance. The muscles have to stay tight longer, which, going all the way back to the 2024 CAS study, provides the exact time under tension the leg veins so desperately need to push blood centrally.
Oh, that's brilliant. You aren't achieving that sustained tension by strapping on a heavier weight plate at the gym. You're achieving it by challenging the nervous system with complex rhythm.
Exactly.
And when you synchronize the breath, the sustained tension in the legs, and the upper body sweeps all at once, well, you get what the sources call the multiplier effect. 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It equals 5.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. It's a multiplier.
But let me ask you this, because I know people are wondering. When people do Tai Chi or yoga, practices that are famous for mind-body connection and flow, are they getting this multiplier? Are they already doing this?
It's a great question, but the text is very clear on this distinction. Tai Chi has wonderful cross-lateral movement and weight transfer, but it generally lacks the specific, deliberate circulatory and venous return intent, especially regarding those upper body exit points.
And yoga.
Yoga has the deep breathing and the rotation, sure, but it often features static, passive, lower body loading rather than a dynamic venous pump.
So they're missing pieces.
Right. Neither of them puts the complete multiplier together in the way the WAVE protocol describes. They are beautiful practices, but physiologically they are missing pieces of the orchestra.
Because the multiplier only exists when all the components, the sequential legs, the targeted breath, the complex asymmetrical rhythm, and the upper body sweep, are simultaneous and coordinated with the specific intent of moving fluid.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. Why does all of this complex rhythm, whole body coordination, and fluid movement matter so much? And it all comes back to the organ we started with, the heart.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, cardiac disease is the leading cause of death across the developed world.
Yeah, by a long shot.
And we treat the heart as if it operates in total isolation. If it's failing, we just look at the heart. But what Terence Hughes is describing is an augmented circulatory system, a vast distributed architecture of peripheral pumps in the calves, fascial networks spanning across the torso, and respiratory mechanics in the diaphragm.
So what does this all mean?
It means that when you apply this protocol, when you engage this whole system rhythm, your total blood flow improves. But crucially, it improves not because your heart worked harder.
Right.
It improves because the rest of the system finally showed up to share the load. A heart that is working with augmented support from the calves, the diaphragm, and the upper body is a heart that is under meaningfully less chronic stress.
Which is such a massive paradigm shift. I mean, I always thought cardio meant making the heart beat faster, like stressing it out on a treadmill to make it stronger.
That's the trap. True circulatory health isn't about stressing the heart in isolation. It is about reducing the heart's isolation. You are rescuing the heart from having to do a job it was never mechanically designed to do alone.
Man. Let's bring all of this together because we've covered some incredibly dense physiological terrain today.
We really have.
First, your heart is a pressure pump. It cannot pull blood back up the hill. Second, your calf is not just a dumb meat pump. It requires a complex two-component sequence in sustained time under tension to actually move fluids.
Right.
Third, your breath dictates the flow. If you don't coordinate your exhale with your movement, you're literally fighting your own body. Fourth, your shoulders act as the absolute physical exit door for your immune cells and the fat molecules you absorb from your food.
Crucial for nutrient assimilation.
Exactly. And finally, complex asymmetrical rhythms like 54 time are literally required to keep your nervous system engaged, maintain that time under tension, and ultimately protect your heart from doing it all alone.
It is a complete re-education on what it means to inhabit your body and move through the world.
It really is. So I want to leave you with a final thought from the text to mull over today. The next time you go for a walk or do a workout or even just sit at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon, don't ask yourself the standard tired fitness question, what should my body do today?
Right. Change the frame.
Exactly. Ask yourself a fundamentally different question. Is my whole system present? And is the wave moving from the ground all the way to the subclavian? Because the true augmented circulatory system has been inside you all along. It's just been waiting for the right rhythm to wake it up.
Perfectly said.
And to think, you could exercise faithfully for 30 years and be just one deep dive away from finally turning the whole system on.